All right, so we are here with our sixth period students talking about the first lesson for this new unit on polynomials. All right, so when we left in December, we were talking about quadratics. That was what we spent the bulk of December on, was quadratics. So now we're going to move into polynomials, and you'll notice that quadratics are a subset of polynomials. We're going to go a little bit further than that and look at polynomials with a degree of 3. All right, so we have cubic polynomials and degree of 4, quartic polynomials. And we're going to spend a lot of time next week on quartic polynomials. So that's 4. Quartic is 4. You'll see later in the lesson. All right, so a couple of things about what are polynomials and what are not polynomials. Okay, so we're always going to deal with one variable in our polynomials. Most of the time, the variable would be letter x, but it might not always be. You guys learned in middle school about something called a monomial, all right? And you know that prefix means 1, all right? So that's one term. Then we're going to see later on in this unit, you look at binomials, all right? So that means 2 terms. And then trinomials, 3 terms. And we spent a good deal on quadratic trinomials in December. Now, this is the most important slide in the beginning part of this lecture, is to look at, this is a cubic polynomial. All right, you guys see how the highest exponent is a 3? That means it's a cubic polynomial. Now, how many terms are in this polynomial? How many terms? 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. All right, so you would name this, I'll write the name right here, as a cubic.
Why does it say 1, 0?
I'll show you that in a second. With 4 terms. Now, Daniel, your brain was asking about the green numbers. So if each of these terms was separate, right, if they weren't connected by addition and they were completely separate from one another, then the degree of each of these terms would be 3, 2, 1, 0. They show you this to show you that it's in order from the highest number to the lowest number, which you guys know from your work in this class and other classes, that's called standard form. Okay, so the biggest thing you'll hear to start the example that we're going to do, and then when you guys work on some problems, is to make sure that your polynomial is in standard form. So the highest exponent first, and then decreasing in order. Okay? Everybody good so far with those terms? I haven't mentioned the one in red, this leading coefficient, leading in front, right? And the coefficient is the number that's in front of your variable. So that's why it's 5. Questions on anything on this slide?
Do we need the leading coefficient?
Yes, not today. We're going to do it today, but later on in the week, you're going to see the leading coefficient actually come into play. Okay? Yes?
What is degree 10?
So it's the degree of each of these terms. So the highest exponent in this one is 3, 2, 1, or x to the first power. You see how there's no x here? So it'll be x to the 0 power. All right? They're just showing you that it's in order from the highest to the lowest, which is called standard form. Okay? Now, the degree of this polynomial is 3, which is why I wrote cubic for a 3rd degree polynomial. All right? Cubic. All right. Yeah, I think you'll see here, Camilla, about those naming words that I used. We just had a degree of 3, so I wrote cubic. What did we work on right before you guys went on break? We had a degree of 2, and we said those were quadratics. And I told you that we're going to spend a lot of time next week with quartics, degree of 4. Okay? Quintic's going to show up today, a degree of 5, but we're not going to spend a lot of time with quintic. That's how you say those words. Cubic, quartic, quintic. Great question. Google it. That was funny. Quintic. There it is. All right. Let's do an example together. All right. So find example 1. Make sure you get something to write with if you haven't already. Let's write this down because you're going to use these notes to help you with the problems at your boards. All right. So when you look at this first, Angel, is this in standard form? No. Could you tell me in words, all right, the order for standard form? Now, I heard 5x2. A couple of things there. Say it again. 8 squared, it's all good. All right, it's been a while. But there's something else, Angel. Hold on, let Angel think about it. Shh, let Angel think about it. Do you see how there's subtraction here? So it actually needs to be negative 5x squared. All right, Angel, what comes next? Shh, Angel, please. I'm sorry? So this is x squared. If I take 1 away, that'd be x to the first power. Do you have x to the first power up here? Yes, you do. The 4x. So plus 4x. And then what's the last one going to be? The 3. And is there a sign in front of the 3, Angel? No, so you write plus 3. All right, so we just wrote this in standard form. All right, that's standard form. Now, when it asks you to do all of these things, identify the leading coefficient, the degree, and the number of terms, and then name it, the first thing you got to do is put it in standard form. So we've already done that. Standard form, check that off. Okay, so let's do the leading coefficient. All right, the leading coefficient. Dominic, what's the leading coefficient of this polynomial? It is, you said too many things. Try again. Very good, right? The leading coefficient, Dominic, is always just going to be a number. All right, in this case, negative 5. Do you hear how Dominic started saying the x part as well? That's not for the coefficient, though, just the number. Question, Dan? No. All right, the degree. Now, the degree of a polynomial in this case, David has already said the answer for us, but I wanted to talk about it real quick, David. It's always the highest exponent. And if you've put it into standard form, it's always going to be the first exponent. All right, that should always be the first one, the highest one. So it is going to be a 2, a degree of 2. Now, let's do the last part before we name it. For the number of terms, all right? Nathan, how many terms are there in this polynomial? There are 3. Very good. All right, you have negative 5x squared is one term, 4x is a second term, and then the 3 is the third term. Very good, Nathan. All right, now, with all that being said, we're going to use these last 2 to name it. All right, so go back to your table if you need to, which is right here. Which one am I going to use for a degree of 2? Degree of 2, quadratic. How many terms did Nathan tell us it was? 3 terms, so I'm going to be using the word trinomial. I get a lot of students that do that. Every year, they say quadratic. You can't pick both of these or multiple of these. Once you pick quadratic, you're done with that part of it. All right? So this is a quadratic trinomial. Is there a question, Sebastian? Okay. Shh. Yes, there's a question. So again, I get a lot of students every year that they'll write quadratic cubic. All right, so they're using 2 of the degree names. Once you pick your degree, then you have to, I should see it, eel at the end, right? Trinomial, binomial, polynomial with 5 terms, something like that. Yes, excellent question. Remember up here, Daniel, when I named this one had more than 3 terms, so I wrote polynomial with 4 terms. Polynomial with 8 terms.
Oh, that's the degree of term.
Yeah, so the first word is always going to be for the degree, nothing to do with the terms.
Wait, so
Yes.
if you were to do that one,
The one I was just on, I'm sorry. With 4 terms to tell me how many there are. Because once you get... Yes, because once you get past 3, I don't have a name for it. So trinomial and then polynomial with 4 terms. Jacob? Well, this is just showing you that the degree of each of these as if they were monomials. All right, it says 0 because there's no x. It'd be like x to the 0 power. Okay, any questions on example 1? Okay, so you guys are about to start these 4. Okay, let's make sure we know the steps. Step number 1 to do what? Standard form, put them in order, very good, standard form. Then you're going to find these three things: leading coefficient, degree, number of terms, and then finally name them. I'll give you 10 minutes. Go ahead. You do two